Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a beautiful night. I like to call this part 2 of Yehanan and the Battle of Jericho, knocking down these concepts created by the kings of this world. I like to give a shout out to Yehanan Cord Scrolls or John Cord Books. He is truly an educated person and exemplifies good character, from what I can understand. When you see me reading this, oftentimes you'll see me using, instead of the word God or any names of gods, you'll see me using the phrase I am, or I, or spirit of mine, word of mine, child of mine. When you see me reading Jesus Christ, if I do go to the New Testament in this portion, you'll see me saying, when I see the Lamb or when I see the Christ, I will say who I am, or spirit of mine, or Holy Spirit. The reason I say Holy Spirit is because the spirit of mine is holy, if that makes sense. The very next day they began to eat unleavened bread and roasted grain harvested from the land. No manna appeared on the first day they ate from the crops of the land, and it was never seen again. From that time on, the Israelites ate from the crops of Canaan. Who I am confronts Yehanan. When Yehanan was near the town of Jericho, he looked up and saw a man standing in front of him with a sword in hand. Yehanan went up to him and demanded, "Are you friend or foe?" "Neither one," he replied. "Neither one," I replied. "I am the commander of Who I Am's army. I am the commander of my army." At this, Yehanan fell with his face to the ground in reverence. "I am at your command," Yehanan said. "What do you want your servant to do?" The commander of my army replied, "Take off your sandals, for the place you are standing is holy." And Yehanan did what he was told. So I want to explain something to you guys real quick. Disclaimer: cigarettes are very dangerous, and if you don't smoke them, please don't start. If you do smoke them, be strong. So I was outside smoking a cigarette one day, and I was just sitting there minding my business as usual, and all of a sudden I saw a vision, or I don't really know what to explain it as, because normally when I think, or when I'm in my consciousness or imagination or whatever anybody will call it, the heavens, the heart, the automatic nervous system takes control, so to speak. And I'm not telling people to do this, but I basically can do two things at once, so to speak. I'm thinking, envisioning things while paying attention to the outside world. One day when I was smoking a cigarette outside and it was evening time, I was sitting there and I had a vision of a man on fire. He was totally on fire. And not like he was on fire screaming or anything. He was like a man on fire. And it wasn't a huge man or anything. It was like I was staring at him in front of me, and it was like tiny, but he wasn't tiny. It was just a man standing there. And before I could say, because I'm going to be honest, I was about to say, "I rebuke thee." As soon as I went to say, my body went dumb and numb, and my lips just kind of stopped. And I could just see this flaming character, or this flaming person, and he had an all solid gold crown. And at first I couldn't understand, but I think I do now. Well, I wasn't permitted to say anything or speak at the moment. Now the gates of Jericho were tightly shut because the people were afraid of the Israelites. No one was allowed to go in or out. But I had said to Yehanan, "I have given you Jericho, its king, and all its strong warriors. You and your fighting men should march around the town once a day for 6 days. And on the 7th day." So I'm gonna say something real quick. So at the wedding ceremony, you will notice the Holy Spirit, or Who I Am, took the 6 jugs of wine, the 6 time periods, if you will, and the 6 days, if you will, and turned it into wine, and then gave it to the guests at the feast. 7 priests will walk ahead of the ark, each carrying a ram's horn. Now look at that. The priests are the ones that hold the Ark of the Covenant. I told you all, which is the first 3 commands. I am who I am sent me. You shall have no gods before who I am. You shall not have no idols which is a part of the number one. You shall have no idols under the earth, sea, or in the heavens, or under the sea. Don't take my name in vain. I will not hold him guiltless who takes my name in vain. Don't take who I am in vain. You shall not bow down to them or worship them at all, for I am jealous. I will not hold him guiltless. I hold the entire family. The entire family is affected. He who takes my name in vain. So, and then you have the 7 commandments. You see how they hold 7 horns? This is the Lamb in the Revelation, which is the 7 commandments. Like I said, the 7 commandments are the 7 stars, or the 7 angels, each carrying a ram's horn. On the 7th day, you are to march around the town 7 times, with the priests blowing the horns. When you hear the priests give one long blast of the ram's horns, all the people shout as loud as they can. Then the walls of the town will collapse, and the people can start trading the town. So this is basically a story talking about when you get the 10 commandments righteously, it will basically tear down the walls of the world. It's basically the Revelation again, but in Joshua's way. And then you'll be able to go into Jericho and then be free, so to speak. So Yehanan called together the priests and said, tie up the ark of who I am, and then assigned 7 priests to walk in front of it, each carrying a ram's horn. Then give the orders of the people, march around the town, and with the armed men will lead the way in front of the ark of who I am. Then Yehanan spoke to the people. The 7 priests with the ram's horns started marching in the presence of who I am. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Thou shalt not covet for thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt honor thy father and mother, and keep the day of Sabbath holy. Keep your day of rest holy. Keep your day of rest who I am. And on the day of judgment, we can face who I am with confidence because we live like the first 3 commandments in this world. Live like the Lamb in this world. Well, the Lamb has all 10, so some of the armed men marched in front of the priests with the horns, and some behind the ark with the priests, continually blowing the horns. Do not shout, do not even talk, Yehanan commanded. Not a single word from any of you until I tell you to shout. Then shout. So the ark of who I am was carried around the town once that day, and then everyone returned to spend the night at the camp. Yehanan got up early the next morning. That dream I had about the sun coming up, and the priests again carried the ark of who I am. The 7 priests, the 7 commandments with the ram's horns, they shout out and they destroy Pharaoh's kingdom, so to speak. Marched in front of the ark of who I am, blowing their horns. Again, the armed men marched both in front of the priests with the horns and behind the ark of who I am. All this time, the priests were blowing their horns. So once the commandments getting you, once this law is in there, you free, but it's keeping you from becoming a savage, so to speak, like who I'm not. On the 2nd day, again, they marched around the town once and returned to the camp. They followed this pattern for 6 days. On the 7th day, the Israelites got up at dawn and marched around the town as they had done before, but this time they went around the town 7 times. On the 7th time around, the priests sounded a long blast of their horns. Remember, on the long blast of a horn, you could come to the mount again. Yehanan commanded the people, shout, for I have given you the town, Jericho and everything, and it must be completely destroyed as an offering to who I am. Only Rahab, Christianity, by the hair of thy brow, the prostitute and the others in her house, the Hebrews and all denominations and everything else, once you confess that, once you repent to who I am sorry for what I've done, and then read the 10 commandments without the names of gods and stuff, and stop putting mans and gods in your skies. She will be protected, for she protected our spies, Martin Luther King and William Tyndale. Do not take any of the things set apart for destruction as for yourselves, or you will be completely destroyed. I'm telling you, keep your idols in your house, and I'm going to explain what's about to happen. And you will bring trouble on the camp of Israel. Everything made from silver, gold, bronze, or iron is sacred to who I am and must be brought to my treasury. When the people heard, so like I'm telling you all take any of this stuff out of this book or anything, and you build up your own little personal kingdom and say you're the God of your people and all this other stuff, and you go create another horn or create another head. I'm telling you, when the people heard the sound of the ram's horns, they shouted as loud as they could, "This tree is for everyone who I am." Suddenly the walls of Jericho collapsed, and the Israelites charged straight into the town and captured it. They completely destroyed everything with their swords. Remember, this is a revelation for who I am on the inside. That means for all of you. Don't go around young and old, cattle, sheep, goats, and donkeys. Meanwhile, so there's all the spirits and the old religions. Look at Catholicism. I'm telling you. You go look at a Catholic church and look at the stuff they're worshiping and doing and all these different man gods and saint gods and Mother Mary, the God, Mother's God. I'm telling you. Meanwhile, Yehanan said to the two spies, "Keep your promise. Go out to the prostitute's house and bring her out along with her family." And so the men who had been spies went in and brought out Rehab and her father. Brought out Rehab, Christianity, and Judaism, or Judah, and the Hebrews, and all these denominations, and all the other relatives who were with her. They moved her while the family was in a safe place near the camp of Israel. Then the Israelites burned down the town and everything in it. My fire will come down, the fire that doesn't consume, like Sodom and Gomorrah. They didn't kill those people. And if they did, it was my fire to kill the kingdom of the world, so to speak, not to literally burn people alive. The Catholics and the English. Only things made from silver, gold, bronze, and iron were kept in the treasury of who I am. So Yehanan spared Rehab, the prostitute, and her relatives who were in the place of the house. So look at all this Christianity stuff. You better put the right name back on it. The Lord God and Jesus, I'm telling you, you're going to keep plaguing yourselves. Because she had hidden the spies Yehanan sent to Jericho. And she lives among the Israelites to this day. At that time, Yehanan invoked this curse. May the curse of who I am fall on anyone who tries to build the town of Jericho. So you go back and mess with Catholicism again, and I'm telling you what is going to happen. At the cost of his firstborn son, he will lay its foundation. At the cost of his youngest son, he will set up the gates. So who I am was with Yehanan, and his reputation spread throughout the land. So like I'm telling you, so remember I said the man is the spirit and the flesh is the woman, so to speak, and not a physical concrete way. This is the teaching. When you give forth towards this old cursed religion, people are going to, I'm telling you, go look at these Catholic videos and look at either the comments or how you can't even comment on them. AI defeats the Israelites. But Israel violated the instructions about the things set apart for who I am. A man named Achan had stolen some of these dedicated things, so I was very angry with the Israelites. Achan was the son of Carmi, a descendant from Zimri, the son of Zerah. So one of my people from John's house decided to make himself a man god. And remember, now I had to take Peter and the popes and all them out of the sky, so to speak, and stone them with the words or this stuff. Son of Zerah, the tribe of Judah. Yehanan sent some of his men from Jericho to spy out of the town of Ai, east of Bethel, near Beth Aven. When they returned, they told Yehanan, "There's no need for all of us to go up there. It won't take more than 2,000 or 3,000 men to attack Ai. Since there are few of them, don't make our people struggle to go up there." So approximately 3,000 warriors were sent, but they were soundly defeated. The men of Ai chased the Israelites from the town gate as far as the quarries, and they killed about 36 who were retreating down the slope. The Israelites were paralyzed with the fear at the turn of events, and their courage melted away. So look what happened to the Jewish people because of what Peter did, if that makes sense. Yehanan and Paul also, oh my goodness. Yehanan and the elders of Israel tore their clothing in dismay, threw dust on their heads, and bowed their face down to the ground before the ark of who I am until the evening. Then Yehanan cried out, Oh, who I am, why did you bring us across the Jordan River if you are going to let the Amorites slay us? If only we had been content to stay on the other side. What can I say now that Israel has fled from its enemies? For when the Canaanites and all the other people living in the land hear about it, they will surround us and wipe our name off the face of the flesh. And then what will happen to the honor of your great name? But I said to Yehanan, Get up. Why are you lying on your face like this? Israel has sinned and broken my covenant. They have stolen some of the things that I commanded must be set apart for me, who I am. And they have not only stolen them, but have lied about it and hidden them among their own belongings. That is why the Israelites are running from their enemies in defeat. Now, because they put a man God on them 10 commandments, and it started with Peter. For now, Israel itself has been set apart for destruction. I will not actually leave. Judas is representative of Levi, and Peter is representative of Judah. He was violent and told put the sword down, and he didn't, over and over and over. I will not remain with you any longer unless you destroy the things among you that are set apart for destruction. Get up and command the people to purify themselves in preparation for tomorrow. For this is what I, who I am, says, hidden among you, O Israel, are things set apart for who I am. You will never defeat your enemies until you remove these things from among you. The Lord God and Jesus. In the morning you must present yourselves by tribes and all these names of gods. And I will point out the tribe to which the guilty man belongs. That tribe must come forward with its clans, and I will point out the guilty clan. That clan will then come forward, and I will point out the guilty family. Finally, each member of the guilty family must come forward one by one. The one who has stolen what was set apart for destruction will himself be burned with the fires that don't consume, because he is a part of that kingdom now. Along with so these are spiritual things. Whoever who kills and goes against the commands will be given over to destruction. I'm warning you, along with everything he has, for he has broken the covenant of who I am and has done horrible things in Israel. Achan's sin. Early the next morning, Yehanan brought the tribes of Israel before who I am, and the tribe of Judah was singled out. Did I not say this? And then the clans of Judah came forward, and the clan of Zerah was singled out. And then the families of Zerah came forward. So look at this. From the tribe of Zerah, there was a sacrifice of Judah because of this sin, because of their violence. So what happened to Peter? It came back around, and since I gave him the keys to heaven and hell, he became naked, and then his kingdom grew. And on the third day, after he had denied me 3 times, you can see truly what happened and what was bred out of this. Every member of Zimri's family, because I don't have to testify about the future, I can see it lived out, of Zimri was singled out. Every member of Zimri's family was brought forward person by person, and Achan was singled out. Then Yehanan said to Achan, My son, give glory to who I am, and who I am of Israel, by telling the truth. Make your confession and tell me what you have done. Don't hide it from me. Achan replied, It is true. I have sinned against who I am. Who I am amongst Israel. Among the plunder I saw a beautiful robe from Babylon, 200 silver coins, and a bar of gold weighing more than a pound. Babylon. And who attacked Judah first? Babylon. Right? And then they became bloody violence. They are hidden in the ground beneath my tent, with the silver buried deeper than the rest. So Yehanan sent out some men in a search. They ran to the tent and found the stolen goods hidden there. And just had Peter said, with the silver buried beneath the rest, they took the things from the tent and brought him to Yehanan and all the Israelites. Then they lay him on the ground and in the presence of who I am. Then Yehanan and all the Israelites took Achan, the silver, the robe, the bar, the gold, and all that other stuff, because I can't even say that out loud, and took them to the valley of Achor. Then Yehanan said to Achan, "Why have you brought trouble on us? I will now bring trouble on you." And the Israelites had to, with the stones, get rid of Achan and let the fire that doesn't consume come down till he was purified. And so then they all died. What does that mean? They were, once the idols were removed and destroyed, right? Then he was alive again, so to speak. So it'll say he died in this book. But what I'm telling you, once you get the righteous word and you are cleansed, you die to Pharaoh's kingdom. That is why the place has been called the Valley of Trouble ever since. And so I was no longer angry. And so, like I have told you all over and over and over, this isn't about physical death. You guys have turned this into paganship because of people like Peter and Paul and different people like Judah and the Levites. And then people had to come and atone for this. Did Moses not have to atone for all this stuff? Did John the Baptist not have to atone for all this stuff? Then I said to Yehanan, "Do not be afraid or discouraged. Take all your fighting men and attack Ai. For I have given you the king of Ai, his people, and the town and his land. You will destroy them as you destroyed Jericho and its king. But this time you may keep the plunder and the livestock for yourselves. Set an ambush behind town." So Yehanan and all the fighting men set out to attack Ai. Yehanan chose 30,000 of his best warriors and sent them out at night. And these orders: hide in the ambush close behind the town and be ready for action. When our main army attacks, the men of Ai will come out to fight as they did before, and we will run away from them. We will let them chase us until we have drawn them from the other town. For they will say, "The Israelites are running away from us as they did before." Then while we are running from them, you will jump up from your ambush and take possession of the town. For I am who I am, and I will give it to you. Set the town on fire with the fire that doesn't consume, and as commanded, you have your orders. So they left and went to the place of ambush between Bethel and west side of Ai. But Joshua remained among the people in the camp that night. Early in the morning, Yehanan roused his men and started towards Ai, accompanied by the elders of Israel. All the fighting men who were with Yehanan marched in front of the town and camped on the north side, with a valley between them and the town. That night, Yehanan sent about 5,000 men to lie in ambush between Bethel and Ai, on the west side of town. So they stationed the main army north of the town and ambushed west of the town. Yehanan himself spent that night in the valley. When the king of Ai saw the Israelites across the valley, he and his army hurried out early in the morning and attacked the Israelites at a place overlooking the Jordan Valley. So think about this real quick. So then I said, like, in the morning, I saw the sun coming up in the morning rise and all that stuff. So imagine how when we first get here, or when I say when we first get here, I'm simply meaning as we're taught growing up, what do? They give us the word, the Bibles, these churches. There's churches on every corner. So I'm going to conceptualize a couple of things. They give us all these fantasies and things to believe in and all this magic and miracles. But when you grow up and try to do this, the same thing they tell you: don't bury your gold in the field and go do this and that and the magic and miracles and testify on my behalf, and who doesn't love me hates me and hates the Father and all this other stuff. But in America and a lot of different places, they'll put you in psychiatric facilities when you come out saying certain things. They fill you up with all this knowledge and information, all these fantasies outside of the stone, and then they attack you for it, so to speak. So early in the morning and attacked the Israelites at a place overlooking the Jordan Valley, right? So through the word. But he didn't realize there was an ambush behind the town. Yehanan and the Israelite army fled towards the wilderness as though they were badly beaten. Then all the men of the town were called out to chase after them, and this way they were lured away from the town. There was not a man left in Ai or Bethel who did not chase after the Israelites, and the town was left wide open. So, right, we're in the wilderness, right? And then the dragon sends a flood towards the wilderness, right? They run towards the wilderness, but then the town is attacked. The sword goes to the beast's head. See how this is working? Then I said to Yehanan, point the spear in your hand towards Ai, for I will hand the town over to you. Yehanan did as he was commanded. As soon as Yehanan gave this signal, all the men in the ambush jumped from their position and poured into the town. They quickly captured it and set it on fire. So if they did that, it was consumed with the fire that does not consume. Does this make sense? This is not talking about going and killing literal people. These are metaphors about the death on the flesh, the death on the world we create, so to speak. And so what's Joshua doing? Going around slicing up concepts, so to speak. If you really read Joshua, and outside of these stories that have been bloodied through the word, if you pay attention to some of these scriptures he's giving, it's pure encouragement. I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. Be strong and of good courage. Do that which is right. Follow instruction of the law of Moses. What's the law of Moses? It's the 10 Commandments, not 613 mitzvahs that are blinding us. The word has been beaten by the Grecian Pharisees and Jews and all this other stuff. And then it has been bloodied by the Romans, if that makes sense. When the men of Ai looked behind them, the smoke from the town was filling the sky, and they had nowhere to go. For the Israelites have fled into the direction of the wilderness, now turned on their pursuers. When Yehanan and all the other Israelites saw that the ambush had succeeded and that smoke was rising from the town, they had turned and attacked the men of Ai. Meanwhile, the Israelites who were inside the town came out and attacked the enemy from the rear. So the men of Ai were caught in the middle. When the Israelite fighters on both sides, Israel attacked them, and not a single person survived or escaped. So a bunch of prophets are giving you the 10 Commandments righteously, and then you see the truth and you're like, oh, and you awaken. This is basically what's happening in the New Testament, but instead of the violence and murder, it's showing you how the Spirit, how I get inside and heal who I am and others, if that makes sense. So you see, it says Jesus Christ helped a man walk because he couldn't walk. So then I'll say, who I am went inside and then healed that man of all his spiritual ailments because he couldn't walk right, because of what was going on the inside, anxieties, fears, paranoias, can't sleep, can't this and that, because they're tormented by the king of the world, so to speak, right? So then that person can walk again. Once a person gets the law righteously, they can see again. They're not blinded by the lies and the bloody foolishness of religion. So he's not killing these people physically. He's healing them. He's bringing them to life. They were dead in Pharaoh's kingdom, and now they're alive. He circumcised, it says circumcised the hearts. When the Israelite army finished chasing and killing all the men of Ai in the open fields, they went back and finished off everyone. So when I'm reading this to you guys, this isn't about war or nothing. I've given you the 10 Commandments over and over. I've told you, thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not covet for thy neighbor's house and attack others and that type of stuff. I am mercy and peace. These are spiritual concepts that have been bloodied and turned literal. Dead literalization, if that makes sense. So the entire population of Ai, including men and women, was wiped out that day, 12,000 in all. 12,000 from each tribe. Are you seeing this? For Yehanan kept holding out his spear until everyone who had lived in Ai was completely destroyed. Only the livestock and the treasures of the town were not destroyed, for the Israelites kept these as plunder for themselves, as I had commanded Yehanan. So Yehanan burned down the town of Ai, and it became a permanent mound of ruins, desolate to this very day. And so if I'm saying Yehanan is doing that, I'm going around telling the truth and giving them the light. And so then when the fire comes down and destroys the wickedness, you come out of the fire like refined gold. If you go and light people on fire, that's darkness and death and murder, and you will probably be punished, more than likely. If not physically, spiritually. Am I saying an eye for an eye? No. There is a prison system for a reason, when judges are righteous and people are righteous about it. And it became a permanent mound of ruins, desolate to this very day. Yehanan impaled the king of Ai on a sharpened pole and left him there until the evening. So I'm gonna give you guys something real quick. You remember how in Joseph there was a dream. There will be two men. One would be pierced for the bread bearer, and the wine maker. The one who writes the bread gets pierced, and then the wine came forth 3 days later, or the wine comes forth, and he is praised for it. So I told you, don't worship my flesh or blood. I keep telling you, I am who I am, send me. So then, if you look at it this way, I had to come and pierce the pagan man god, Jesus Christ, because he had idols in his house, Peter and Achan, right? And at the sunset, the Israelites took down the body as Yehanan commanded and threw it in front of the town gate. And they piled a great heap of stones over him that can still be seen to this day. My covenant renewed. When Yehanan built an altar to who I am on Mount Ebal, on Mount Ebal, he followed the commands that Moses, the servant of who I am, had written in the book of instruction. Make me an altar from stones that are uncut, that have not been shaped, with iron tools. Then on the altar they presented the burnt offerings and the peace offerings to who I am. So the burnt offerings come up to who I am of peace. You see what I'm saying? Like, as the Israelites watched Yehanan copied unto the stones on the altar the instructions of Moses had given. Then all the Israelites, foreigners and native born alike, along with the elders, officers, and judges, were divided into two groups. The one group stood in front of Mount Gerizim, the other in front of Mount Ebal. Each group faced the other, and between them stood Levitical priests carrying the ark of who I am. This was all done according to the commands that Moses, the servant of who I am, had previously given for blessing for the people of Israel. Yehanan then read them all the blessings and curses Moses had written in the book of instruction. Every word, every command that Moses had ever given was read to the entire assembly of Israel, including the women and children and foreigners who lived among them. Now the kings of the West Jordan River heard about what had happened. These were the kings of the Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, who lived on the hill country and the western foothills, and along the coast of the Mediterranean Sea, as far as the Lebanon mountains. These kings combined their armies to fight against Yehanan and the Israelites. But when the people of Gibeon heard about what Yehanan had done to Jericho and Ai, they resorted to deception to save themselves. They sent ambassadors to Yehanan, loading their donkeys. I'm going to show you something real quick. Watch this. The two mountains told them to read the blessings and curses Moses had written in the book of instruction, every word. And then up here, there's one group stood in front of Mount Gerizim and the other in front of Mount Ebal. The mountains, the Old Testament and the New Testament, they are like mountains, so to speak. Moses came from the mountain. You see how this is working? And so those will be a testament to be here to edify and show you guys. It's almost kind of like the book of wisdom, if you will, in a sense, because, or what should I say, the book of guidance, in the sense of our forefathers and what happens when people play with the word, so to speak. Now all the kings of the West Jordan River heard about what had happened. These were the kings, all the 7 kings. But when the people of Gibeon heard what Yehanan done to Jericho and Ai, they resorted to deception to save themselves. They sent ambassadors to Yehanan, all in the comments and everywhere else, loading their donkeys with withered saddlebags and old patched wineskins. They put on worn out patched sandals and ragged clothes, and the bread they took with them was dry and moldy. When they arrived at the camp of Israel in Gilgal, they told Yehanan and the men of Israel, "We have come from a distant land to ask to make a peace treaty with us." Then the Israelites replied to these Hivites, "How do we know you don't live nearby? For if you do, we cannot make a treaty with you." They replied, "We are your servants." "But who are you?" Yehanan demanded. "Where do you come from?" They answered, "Your servants have come from a very distant country. We have heard of the might of I am who I am, and all he did in Egypt. We have also heard what he did to the two Amorite kings, Jesus and God, on the Jordan River, King Shiho of Heshbon and King Og of Bashan. So our elders, the four gods, Allah Hashem, so our elders and all our people instructed us, take supplies for a long journey. Go meet with the people of Israel and tell them, we are your servants. Please make a treaty with us. So I said, don't swear nothing. You see the New Testament coming in, words edify righteously. This bread was not from the ovens when we left our homes. This bread was hot from the ovens, but now, as you can see, it is dry and moldy. These wineskins were new when we filled them, but now they are old and split open, and our clothing and sandals are worn out from our very long journey. So the Israelites examined their food, but they did not consult who I am. Then Yehanan made a peace treaty with them and guaranteed their safety, and the leaders of the community ratified their agreement with a binding oath. 3 days after making the treaty, they learned that these people were actually lived nearby. The Israelites set out at once to investigate and reached their towns in 3 days. The names of these towns were Gibeon, Kiphirah, Beeroth, and Kiriath Jearim. But the Israelites did not attack the towns, for the Israelite leaders had made a vow to them in the name of who I am. The people of Israel grumbled against their leaders because of the treaty. But the leaders replied, since we have sworn an oath in the presence of who I am, we cannot touch them. This is what we must do. We must let them live, for divine anger would come upon us if we broke our oath. Let them live. So they made them woodcutters and water carriers for the entire community, as the Israelite leaders directed. Yehanan, I'm just going to say what came to my mind. These Jewish people that are pretending to be Jewish, but using the word God after what Hitler and the Germans did to them. Like, do you see who, this is an anti-Semitism. Yehanan called together the Gibeonites and said, why do you lie to us? Why did you say that you live in a distant land when you live right here among us? May you be cursed. From now on, you will always be servants who cut wood and carry water for the house of who I am. They replied, we did it because we're your servants. We're clearly told that who I am commanded his servant Moses to give you this entire land and to destroy all the people living in it. So we fear greatly for our lives because of you. That is why we have done this. Now we are at your mercy. Do to us whatever you think is right. So Yehanan did not allow the people of Israel to kill them. But that day he made the Gibeonites, the woodcutters, and the water carriers of the community of Israel for an altar of who I am, wherever I would choose to build it. And that's what they do to this day. Adonai-Zedek, king of Jerusalem, heard that Yehanan had captured and completely destroyed Ai and killed its king, just as he had destroyed the town of Jericho and killed its king. He also learned that Gibeonites had made peace with Israel and were now their allies. Gideonites. I don't know why, but Gideonites is popping in my head. The books of Gideon. Gideonites. He and his people became very afraid when they heard all this, because Gibeon was a large town, as large as the royal cities and larger than Ai, and the Gibeonite men were strong warriors. So King Adonai-Zedek of Jerusalem sent messengers to several other kings of Hoham of Hobram, Piram of Juramuth, Japhia of Lachish, and Debir of Eglon. Come and help me destroy Gibeon. He urged them, for they have made peace with Yehanan and the people of Israel. So these 5 Amorite kings combined their armies for a united attack. They moved all their troops into place and attacked Gibeon. The men of Gibeon quickly sent out messengers to Yehanan at his camp in Gilgal. Don't abandon your servants now, they pleaded. Come at once, save us, help us, for the Amorite kings who live in the hill country have joined forces to attack us. So Yehanan and his entire army, including his best warriors, left Gilgal and set out for Gibeon. Do not be afraid of them, I said to Yehanan, for I have given you victory over them. Not a single one of them will be able to stand against you. Yehanan traveled all night from Gilgal and took the Amorite armies by surprise. Then I threw them into a panic, and the Israelites slaughtered great numbers of them at Gibeon. So you guys see how there's a bunch of wars, and I am giving who I am the power to destroy all this stuff and the fire that doesn't consume in the righteous law to know what's right and wrong. So I can decipher what killing and circumcisions and all this stuff means. It means he's circumcising this. If they're going on his side and he's becoming powerful, he's becoming a mighty man, so to speak. So what I will say is that this isn't to kill. I'm telling you, do not forsake the stone. I'm basically saying that, remember how in the New Testament it is written that there will be no stone left unknocked over. So I don't want you guys to fear when you hear this stuff. So the way you're seeing me read this, now you guys can read this stuff, get a bunch of like the strength and stuff, but knowing after your circumcision, knowing the righteousness, and then like read Psalms and stuff, and then you put this in your heart and you become powerful. So you will never be the entirety of your brain. You will only ever be the consciousness, if that makes sense. But you are the entirety of your brain. So the consciousness is the child you give birth to. Your flesh is the woman, the mother, whatever. And the brain in its entirety is the king, is the whatever. If your spirit is not baptized right, you will be like a beast. And then you will profess death and murder. This is why so many people attack each other, because they don't understand these words. And the priests have sold out, so to speak. Then the Israelites chased the enemy along the road to Beth Horon, killing them. So I'm just taking them out of Pharaoh's kingdom along the way to Ez-Kahah and Makkedah, as the Amorites, or not Pharaoh's kingdom, but they are upon Pharaoh's children. So yes, it is Pharaoh's kingdom, but they're still a part of like the Canaanites and the Hivites. You see how this is working? As the Amorites retreat. So I would be teaching, don't do this, do that, be righteous, and giving them the 10 commandments. And then people in the world be like, don't listen to that. Our God Molech is the truth. Burn, blah, 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 blah. You see what I'm saying? As the Amorites retreated down the road from Beth Horon, I destroyed them with a terrible hailstorm from the heart. That it hailed today. Whew. Okay, that's weird. Reached Azekah. The hail killed more than the enemy of the Israelites killed with the sword. On that day, I gave the Israelites victory over the Amorites. Yehanan prayed to who I am in front of all the people of Israel. Praise the Holy One. Let the sun stand over Gibeon, the lights, and the moon over the valley of Ajah, the lesser light, the law. So the sun stood and the moon stayed in its place until the nation of Israel had defeated its enemies. And so if you notice, it says if protected by the blood, it may have had pagan names on some of these gods and stuff, but people who truly followed the other 7 commandments, the lights, were protected because I watched over them, so to speak. Does that make sense? But everybody who lies on the scroll will be cursed, if that makes sense. Let the sun stand over Gibeon. So what I'm saying is, you're doing it to yourself. It's like those movies where they try to pick up the golden chalice and drink it, and they're like, this is the pretty cup, and they drink it and get poisoned on these movies. But then the plain simple cup is the right one, because that's the simple way, the peaceful way. When it says a rich man, it's higher for a camel to get through the eye of a needle for a rich man to get into heaven. Because if you got everything you already need and none of that stuff is bringing you happiness, you're going to be miserable and you're not going to know how to be happy if you don't have a... So what I'm saying is money doesn't bring happiness. It may make you temporarily happy or give you comfort, which can bring happiness, but true happiness comes from within. So I'm not telling you to be a homeless monk or whatever, Buddha and all this other stuff, and forsake the flesh. What I'm saying is, don't forsake the spirits. Don't forsake who I am. Don't adulter with myself and then go off and run after other things. So the sun stood still, and the moon stayed in place until the nation of Israel had defeated its enemies. Took the moon out of the sky. That's great. And this event is not recorded in the book of Jashar. Is this event not recorded in the book of Jashar? The sun stayed in the middle of the sky, and it did not set as on a normal day. The light remained. And there has never been a day like this before since, when rest has found. Oh, it's on camera, they can't distort my words anymore. When I answered such a prayer, surely I fought for Israel that day. Then Yehanan and the Israelite army returned to their camp at Gilgal. Joshua circumcises and destroys the 5 southern kings. During the battle of the 5 kings, escaped and hid in a cave in Makkedah. During the battle, the 5 kings escaped and hid in a cave at Makkedah. They will say, let the caves hide us, the mountains. So they're hiding under something, a rock or a brick. And if it's a cave, it's a natural concept. Then when Yehanan heard that they had been found, he issued a command. Cover the opening of the cave with the large rocks and place the guards at the entrance to keep the kings inside. The rest of you continue chasing the enemy and cut them down from the rear. So all these different gods and stuff and different major gods, God, Jesus, Allah, Hashem, Moses, all these different gods, they're going in the tomb, and you can follow them in there if you want. Don't give them a chance to get back to their towns, for I have given you victory over them. So Yehanan and the Israelite army continued the slaughter, circumcising the hearts and removing the beast from Pharaoh's kingdom, all this different stuff that's been removed from the pit and everything else, and completely crushed the enemy. They totally wiped out the 5 armies except for a tiny remnant that managed to reach their fortified towns. Then the Israelites returned safely to Yehanan in the camp at Makkedah. After that, no one dared to speak even a word against Israel. Then Yehanan said, remember, this is spiritual. Don't think me a pagan for that land in Canaan that they talking about. Remove the rocks covering and open the cave, and bring the 5 kings to me. So they brought the 5 kings out of the cave, the kings of Jerusalem, Hebron, Jarmuth, Lachish, and Eglon. Then when they brought them out, Yehanan told the commanders of his armies, come and put your feet on the king's necks. And they did as they were told. So keep them in the pit forever. If you don't do this, the Lord God's going to strike you. Get behind me, Satan. Put nothing before who I am. Worship no gods under the earth to see. You shall put no gods before who I am. Take not who I am in vain, lest I burn in your lake of foolishness. No, Jesus, I will not follow the false prophet. The word is who I am. In the beginning, I created all things. I will not commit adultery with myself again and cling into your robe. And you will not beat me like the Romans. You will not send me to your Nebuchadnezzar's box of Germanic pagan hell. Come and put your feet on the necks of these kings. And they did as they were told. Don't ever be afraid or discouraged, Joshua told these men. I rebuke thee, the Spirit of God, the German pagan who tried to destroy my people. For I am going to do this for all of your enemies. Then Yehanan killed each of the 5 kings and impaled them on 5 sharpened poles where they hung until the evening. And as the sun was going down, Yehanan gave instruction for the bodies of the kings to be taken down from their poles and thrown into the cave where they had been hiding. Then they covered the opening of the cave in a pile of large rocks, which remains to this day. That same day, Yehanan captured and destroyed the town of Makkedah. He killed everything in it, including the king, leaving no survivors, no more darkness, but they were all reborn of the spirit, so to speak, and Pharaoh's kingdom and the beast's kingdoms were destroyed. He destroyed them and he killed the king of Makkedah as he had killed the kings of Jericho. Then Yehanan and the Israelites went to Libnah and attacked it. There too I had given them the towns and its kings. He killed everyone in it, leaving no survivors. Then Yehanan killed the kings of Libnah as he had killed the kings of Jericho. So if you want to really conceptualize what I'm talking about, watch my videos from, I think it's my Psalms or my Song of Songs or my poems, and then from the word on up. And you'll see how over time the Spirit works with an individual and how your robes are made pure like Joshua's. From Libnah, Yehanan and the Israelites went to Lachish and attacked it. So if you notice, before Joshua could be used, if you read this in Zechariah, he had to be cleansed. Then he had the accuser at his side day and night. But was I not just a burning stick out of the fire? So now I use that fire. I rebuke thee, Satan, get behind me. Yehanan and the Israelites went to Laish and attacked it, and here again I gave them Laish. Yehanan took it on the second day and killed everyone in it, just as he had done in Libnah. During the attack on Lachish, King Horam of Gezir arrived with his army to help defend the town, but Yehanan's men killed him and his army, leaving no survivors. Then Yehanan and the Israelite army went to Eglon and attacked it. They captured it that day and killed everyone in it, and he completely circumcised the hearts of everyone and destroyed all these wicked spirits, just as he had done in Laish. From Eglon, thou shalt not murder. So please, he with an ear, let the spirit hear what I am saying. He who kills shall be given over to his whatever. Yehanan and the Israelite army went up to Hebron and attacked it. They captured the town and killed everyone in it, including its king, leaving no survivors. They did the same thing to all of its surrounding villages, and just as he had done to Eglon, he completely destroyed the entire population. Then Yehanan and the Israelites turned back and attacked Debir. He captured the town, its king, and all its surrounding villages. He completely destroyed everyone in it, leaving no survivors. He did it to Debir and its king, just what he had done to Hebron and Libnah and its king. So Yehanan conquered the whole region, the kings and the people of the hill country and Negev and the western foothills and the mountain slopes. He completely destroyed everyone in the land, leaving no survivors, just as who I am commanded. Then Yehanan slaughtered them from Kadesh, burning to Gaza, circumcising the heart. This is why what these people are doing is reading the Old Testament, and they're trying to live this out physically and killing innocent people. And they shall not be innocent of my wrath, if that makes sense. All who has a hand in this foolishness, I rebuke thee, Satan. From the region around the town of Goshen up to Gibeon, Yehanan conquered all these kings and their land in a single campaign. In a single day I will heal this land. For who I am, is fighting for his people. Then Yehanan and the Israelite army returned to their camp at Gilgad. Israel defeats the northern armies. When King Jabin of Hazar, remember from the east, he will come with the sword, Michael, heard what happened, he sent messages to the following kings: King of Jabog of Madon, and King of Shemarim, King of Ashaph, and all the kings of the northern hill country, the kings of the Jordan Valley and south of Galilee, the kings of the Galilean foothills, the kings of the Naphoth Dor on the west, the kings of Canaan, both east and west, the kings of the Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, the Jebusites in the hill country, and the Hivitites in the towns of the slopes of Mount Hermon and the land of Mizpah. All these kings came out to fight. Their combined armies formed a vast horde, and with their horses and chariots they covered the landscape like a sand on the seashore. The kings joined forces and established their camp around the water near Merom to fight against Israel. Then I said to Yehanan, do not be afraid of them. By this time tomorrow I will hand all of them over to Israel as dead men. Then you must cripple their horses and burn their chariots. And so basically this is saying the spirits that they were riding on. And so what is, in the New Testament, he's a carpenter, and what's a chariot but made out of stuff by maybe like a blacksmith or a carpenter. So then I'm not saying he is. What I'm saying is these are concepts created by men that run around on spirits that were destroyed by who I am. The people that are being destroyed are false prophets and people that walk the flesh. I'm not talking about literal physical people. So Yehanan and all his fighting men traveled to the water near Merom and attacked suddenly, and then I gave them victory over their enemies. The Israelites chased them as far as Greater Sidon and Misrephoth Maim, and the eastward into the valley of Mithsah, until not one enemy warrior was left alive. Then Yehanan crippled the horses and burned all the chariots as I had instructed. Then Yehanan turned back and captured Hazar and killed its king. I destroyed their city, the conceptual city, and then with the fire circumcised the heart. Hazar had once the time been in the capital city. How do you circumcise a stone? With fire, if that makes sense. writing it with the hand, and the hand wrote in the how with his hand with the fire. The Israelites completely destroyed every living thing in the city, leaving no survivors. Not a single person was spared. They were all circumcised. And Pharaoh's kingdom began to fall slowly and slowly, with the 10 plagues, if that makes sense. And then Yehanan burned the city. Yehanan slaughtered all the kings and their people, completely destroying them, just as Moses, the servant of who I am, had commanded. But the Israelites did not burn any of the towns built on the mountains except Hazar, which Yehanan burned. And the Israelites took all the plunder and livestock and the ravaged towns for themselves. So you notice how I keep telling you, where I go, you cannot come. Do not do what I do. And the way you see me doing on a lot of these videos, I'm telling you, John the Baptist. Listen to what he is saying. Follow the law, the 10 commandments, not the law of the lights. And I give them at each of these videos. Now the 2 trees and the stream that lead to the throne of who I am, as who I am commanded his servant. And the Israelites took the plunder and livestock and ravaged the towns for themselves, but they killed all the people, leaving no survivors. So none of these concepts will stand, and then we will rebuild anew on the stone, as I commanded his servant Moses, and Moses commanded Yehanan. And Yehanan did as he was told. The 10 commandments. This book is about the 10 commandments. I'm telling you. The once 12 stars turned to 10, and then a lot of other stuff happened. Carefully obeying all the commands that I had given to Moses. So Yehanan conquered the entire region, the hill country, the entire Negev, the whole area around the town of Goshen, and the western foothills, the Jordan Valley, the mountains of Israel, and the Galilean foothills. If you do get into the book of Enoch, you will see that one day all of these hills and mountains and stuff will be destroyed, conceptually. But people didn't understand this and sought to go fill it out physically and killed and hurt a lot of people. The Israelite territory now extended all the way from Mount Halak, which leads up to Seir in the south, as far as Baalagad, at the foot Mount Hermon in the valley of Lebanon. Yehanan killed all the kings of those territories, waging war for a long time to accomplish this. No one in the region made peace with the Israelites except the Hivites of Gibeon. All others were defeated, for I hardened their hearts and caused them to fight the Israelites. So they were completely destroyed without mercy, as I commanded Moses. During this period, Yehanan destroyed all the descendants of Anak who lived in the hill country of Hebron, Debir, Anab, and the entire hill country of Judah and Israel. He killed them all and completely destroyed their towns. None of the descendants of Anak were left in the land of Israel, though some still remained in Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod. So Yehanan took control of the entire land just as I had instructed Moses. He gave it to the people of Israel as their special possession, dividing the land amongst the tribes. So the land finally had rest from war. So I told Moses on the mountain, I'm going to completely destroy these people. Moses interceded, or Aaron, or whichever, and said, no, let me do it. Came down and broke the very covenant, destroyed the land that I told him to bring down in the first place. So then, instead of my people being righteous and doing this the righteous way, they were given 613 commandments to kill and slay and murder people. People did not understand these at all. And if they did at one point in time, the covenant has been broken over. And they keep saying Peter and Paul. Well, you guys should know that the Israelites have done it to themselves over and over if you actually read this book. A lot of people have, and they do to this day. And they bow to the kings of this world. So Yehanan took control of the entire land just as I instructed Moses. So Moses was sent out to do all this, and he royally messed up. So then Joshua had to be cleansed and led out of the wilderness, dividing the land among the tribes, so they have finally had rest from war. But I'm not here to destroy Moses. In that sense, I can see what Aaron did, if that makes sense. So, as I've told y'all, Akhenaten went around and took over and spread Egypt throughout the world and spread the monotheistic God. But what did Moses get these laws from? There was the law of Mot first, right? But where did the laws of Mot come from? I'm going to say something interesting real quick. I'm going to show you guys something. The name came from the line of Seth. Ham uncovered his father's nakedness. Spell Ham. Turn H on its side, a capital H. I am. It's been hidden this whole time in plain sight, and we couldn't even really see. Then go down further, the righteous one. Hey, bruh, Ham. Nimrod was a mighty hunter before who I am. Now think about that. He was hunting men before me. Am I going around switching up any of these stories and stuff? When I'm telling you all, they have made the Africans in the line of hand and everything else evil while using our stories and our myths and stuff, should I say. And I wouldn't even go as far as say myths, but they have been using all our stuff and then cursing themselves with it, if that makes sense, and then trying to enslave us and curse us. So when I say that, I'm simply talking about the enslavement from the Semitic and the European people over the rest of the world over time, and them enslaving their own people with these false concepts and lies. These are the kings east of the Jordan River who had been killed by the Israelites whose land had been taken. Their territory extended from Arnon, George to Mount Hermon and included all the land of the east of the Jordan Valley. So what's east of the Jordan Valley? What came after the Old Testament? The New Testament. What I tell you this New Testament was the way it's being used. The devil, the Satan. Even the Old Testament has been corrupted and the light has been bloodied. I told you all this, but it's because of the names you all are putting in your souls. The people you're worshiping, the gods you're worshiping, instead of the 10 commandments without the names of gods. Now the 2 trees in paradise, or the Old Testament and New Testament if you want to read all this stuff, but read it righteously with I am and the spirit of mine, Holy Spirit or whatever. King Sahal of the Amorites who lived in Heshbon was defeated. His kingdom included Aroer and the edge of the Arnon Gorge and extended from the middle of Arnon Gorge to the Jabbok River, which serves as a border for the Ammonites. This territory included the southern half of the territory of Gilead. Sihon also controlled the Jordan Valley and regions to the east, from as far north as the Sea of Galilee to the far south as the Dead Sea, including the road to the Dead Sea, dead peoples, including the road to Beth Shejamoth and southward to the slopes of Pisgah. King Og of Bashan, the last of the Rephites, lived at Asherathoth and Edrei. I'm sorry, I'm not the best at pronouncing some of these things. He ruled a territory stretching from Mount Hermon to Salaka in the north and to all of Bashan in the east, and westward to the borders of the kingdoms of Geshur and Maacah. This territory included the northern half of Gilead as far as the boundary of King Shaho and Heshbon. Moses, the servant of who I am, and the Israelites had destroyed the people of King Sahal and King Og, and Moses gave their land as possession to the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and the half tribe of Manasseh. Okay, so we'll get to the kings of the west, and maybe perhaps tomorrow or something like that. And I hope you guys can enjoy and understand these concepts and what I am doing. I will give the 10 commandments or I will give the 2 trees at the end and the river that leads to the throne. You will understand what I mean when you see what I'm talking about. You forsake them first 3 commandments now, or they're supposed to be 4, but you forsake the first 3 and you'll know what I'm talking about, the star, and you're going to blind yourself. You forsake the rest of them and you're going to turn into a beast like the Pharaoh. So enjoy and follow along in the future. And this is basically what my videos have been about. I've been trying to lead to this point, if that makes sense.
Deep within, here we go, but somehow I'm caught in the middle. Is this the end before we've even begun? Should I work against the flow? A drop in the ocean so endless, reaching for our moments miles above. I just need one, diving in to all this endless space, falling stars, but still I see you. Sweet escape, a lovely start, but letting go's the hardest part. Swimming in this deep, deep blue. Hold my breath, looking up, tide moves in waves, it keeps changing. Catch a glimpse of what was you.